receive the Vice Chancellor's procession. Vice Chancellor's procession this evening. Directors of academic programs, directors of institutes, deans of faculties, of Students, Provost, College of Medical Sciences, Provost, College of Postgraduate Studies, the inaugural lecturer, principal officers of the university, the Vice Chancellor's procession. Standing, we take the first and second stanza of the national anthem and the Uniben anthem. Greatest Uniben, please remain seated. Our eminent, pragmatic and resourceful Vice Chancellor, Professor Edoba Omorege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, ably represented this evening by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Victor Igbeneweka, Your Excellencies, top government functionaries, Your Royal Highnesses, former Vice Chancellors of our university and heads of institutions here present, other principal officers of our great university, the provost, deans and directors, the inaugural lecturer and family, professors emeriti, other esteemed professors and erudite scholars here present, my Lord Spiritual, greatest Uniben staff and students, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you heartily to this 341st in the inaugural lecture series of the University of Benin, to be delivered by none other than a distinguished scholar and professor of reproductive toxicology, Professor Mrs. Martina Awele Adaikpoh. On the topic, Spermageddon, Nigerian herbs to the rescue, may I invite respectfully the Registrar and Secretary to Council, Mr. Demola Bobola, to introduce the Vice Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor's procession. The Registrar, sir.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to agree with the protocols duly established by the representative of the PRO, that's Mr. Emmanuel Oreka, and on the basis of this, kindly allow me to continue to abide by this protocol. All courtesies duly extended. It is another wonderful day in the life of this university, and in my own life, the life of the inaugural lecturer. The register of this university celebrated its first lecture series today, and we are capping it up with this inaugural lecture. I think we should make ourselves happy by clapping for ourselves. It is actually the day that the Lord has made, and we are glad and we rejoice in it. The duty you have to perform today is very simple. I want to present the Vice Chancellor, whom many of us know very well, but for the sake of performing this duty, let me mention that the Vice Chancellor is the 11th in the series of Vice Chancellors of this university, and he came into office 2nd December 2024, and he has transformed the university within a very short time of his coming into office. He has risen through the ranks here, served in different capacities, and then after becoming professor, he left the university to work in other arms of the public service. He was in the National Assembly, one of the major institutes of the National Assembly. That's the Nigerian Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies, where he was director of the legislative drafting department of that particular institute. And in the law profession, he's been able to work assiduously to rise to the pinnacle of law practice, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present to us Professor Edoba Omoege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. The Vice Chancellor may not be here physically, but as we all are aware, we always stream, we run on stream, and we come up live, any of our programs in this auditorium. He is very much with us, but physically we will not be able to pick him. But he has his representative here today, a professor of so many years, over 2 decades of being a professor, and is still professing, and is Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration. Professor Christopher Osumbo, who is standing for the Vice Chancellor. We have with us, pardon me that I'm mixing it up. Professor Osumbo is actually the DVC Administration, but actually the man who is going to preside over this event is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic. He's a distinguished scholar and a man of tradition who has risen to the pinnacle too, only that he's not the Oba, but he sees the Oba on a regular basis. And he's a man who has combined Christianity with tradition. He said so when he delivered his lecture here, when we were all confused. Are you a traditional man or a religious man? Professor Victor Igbeneweka, Deputy Vice Chancellor, is presiding over this event. We have a campus that is very dear to this university. That's our Ekenwa campus, where the story of University of Benin started from. And the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of that campus is Professor Boliamin Ayinde, DVC Academy, Ekenwa. We have with us the representative of the acting bursar, another distinguished accountant holding forth for the acting bursar, this time, Mrs. P. Ojanero. The custodian of our books and scholarly publications, the acting university librarian, Walter Maxine Esquire. Of course, we have with us from the other end, representing the Provost College of Postgraduate Studies. I will call him Professor, full professor in embryo, is it? Or do I say designate? He's smiling because he knows that the announcement has been made, but the approval is yet to touch his own hand. And that lies with so many things, including what the registrar may also do too. But for the purpose of this occasion, I introduce to us today the representative of Provost College of Postgraduate Studies, Professor N. Ohamba, who is incoming incoming professor. We have the provost of a very reputable College of Medical Sciences. When I talk of University of Benin, the medical aspect of the university is key, and all over the world, the faculty or the college is known. The provost is Professor Wilson Sado. The #1 student on this campus, who is also a distinguished professor of economics. He used to be Dean of Struggle, but is now Dean of Peace. Professor A.C. Ngodaro is here, Dean of Student Affairs. The man we need to host, to hold very well today, because rice and steel can never be enough, but we have to hold on to him so that he can give us enough of rice and steel after this event. The host dean, that's the Faculty of Life Sciences, Professor T.O.T. Imobe. The Dean Faculty of Agriculture, Professor C.O. Emokaro. Please, let's give him a round of applause. We used to miss Professor Jerry, who is always very tall in the Vice Chancellor's entourage. But God has blessed us with Professor Emokaro, who is another very tallish professor in the park now. We have the Dean Faculty of Arts. This time around, a distinguished professor who is also doubling as a Lord Bishop, but we are not recognizing the bishopric at this particular moment. Professor Benson Osadolo, the Dean Faculty of Arts. We have with us also today another Osadolo, this time around, School of Basic Medical Sciences, Professor H.B. Osadolo. The last time they asked me when I went to my homeland, which Benin name are you going to adopt? I started thinking, should it be Osadolo or Osage and so on? But it's like Osadolo is a kind of name I can identify with at this time. We have with us today the Dean School of Dentistry, Professor Mrs. Enabulele, the Dean School of Dentistry. That's under College of Medical Sciences. The Dean Faculty of Education, who used to boss my boss before, used to be the Dean of the former Vice Chancellor, Professor Kingsley Omorogiwa. The Dean Faculty of Engineering, Professor E.A. Ogunjo. And we have the Dean Faculty of Environmental Sciences, Engineer Professor Sovio Egiato Irugbe Raphael. The Dean Faculty of Law, who is the boss of our new boss now, who can call Board of Studies anytime and expect the Vice Chancellor to be present. Professor Bright Baswaye. I want to believe that we have students from the faculty of our inaugural lecturer. They should be jamming their hands together to celebrate this day for the inaugural lecturer. Yes. Thank you so much. We have representing the Dean Faculty of Physical Sciences, Professor E.E. Irabo. We have the Acting Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences, Professor Mrs. Ebairo Osage. The Dean, Faculty of Pharmacy, Professor Igodaro Igbe. Congratulations on the successful induction of your students yesterday. The Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, Dr. R.A. Ohuerebo. Please pardon my pronunciation. And with us also today, the Dean of the brand new Faculty of Vocational and Technical Education, Professor Mrs. E.E. Uko Aviomo. The Director Center for Distance Learning is represented here today by Dr. Mrs. Akpon Ebiomari. The Director Center for Educational Technology handling all the projections and all the rest along with ICT unit here. Professor Hassan Oahena is here too. And we have the Director Center, Tetford Center of Excellence for Agriculture and Food Technology, Professor Mrs. Patience Ijoma Abo. And the Director of Advancement and Alumni Relations, who I'm sure is also competing very seriously for the tallest in the park, along with Professor Moharu. So Professor Eddie Eragbe, the former rector of this university, the Director of Advanced Digital Engineering Center, ADEC, Professor Mrs. Patience Orukwe. And we have also with us today the Acting Director of Institute of Education, coming from Ekenwa campus today, Dr. K. Imasue. We have with us today a distinguished professor, although she's a biochemist, but she's now piloting many affairs of very important center in the university. She used to handle our postgraduate TME, and I'm sure this time around, if it's still there, it won't be like it happened to our very erudite professor, the registrar of JAM, who yesterday on TV we were seeing him weeping profusely. But we know in Uniben we can do that more perfectly without any bleach when we have postgraduate TME. And the director in charge of that place has also transformed to director of World Bank and Tech Fund Centers of Excellence. Professor Mrs. Erawina, I'm sorry when it comes to some of the names, Omoege. The one I know how to pronounce that among the name is China. And I hope I got the China very well too. Then the last but not the least, in terms of those sitting on the other side of the divide, is the Acting Director, Institute of Public Administration and Health Services Management, Dr. John Osagai. If you have not seen him and the camera did not pick him well, blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. The last but not the least this time around, the officer who led the Vice Chancellor Central, Mrs. C.I. Egato, the Deputy Registrar in charge of Senate Matters. Please let's give her a round of applause. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to respectfully invite the Acting Vice Chancellor, the DBC Academic standing for VC to present the Vice Chancellor's address. Acting VC.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy and feel privileged to represent the Vice Chancellor, Professor Edoba Omerege, SAN, to introduce our inaugural lecturer today. I will therefore do the introduction as directed by my boss. Address by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Edoba Bright Omerege, SAN, and the introduction of the lecturer, Professor Mrs. Martina Awele Adaikpoh, on the occasion of the 341st in the inaugural lecture series of the University of Benin, delivered today, Thursday, 15th May, 2025, at the Arcade Deco Main Auditorium of the University of Benin. Principal officers of the University of Benin, Provost, College of Postgraduate Studies, Provost, College of Medical Sciences, Deans of Faculties and Schools, Directors of Institutes, Members of Council, Professors Emerita and Members of Senate, my Lord Spiritual and Temporal, staff and students, distinguished invited guests and friends of the university, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to welcome you all to the 341st in the inaugural lecture series of the University of Benin. Today's lecture is the 10th to be delivered in the Department of Biochemistry, the 49th to be delivered in the Faculty of Life Sciences, and the 12th to be delivered in my tenure as Vice Chancellor of this great university. Ladies and gentlemen, I enthusiastically introduce our lecturer for today. She is Professor Mrs. Martina Awele Adaikpoh. The title of our lecture is Spermageddon, Nigerian Herbs to the Rescue. Professor Mrs. Adaikpoh was born on 5th May 1963 in Enugu State to the family of Mr. Ogbueshi Joseph Okonta and Mrs. Patricia Ogugwa Okonta of Umuaji, Asaba, both of blessed memory. She had her primary school education first at St. Peter's Primary School of Guashiku and later at Bani Road Primary School, Enugu, where she obtained her primary school leaving certificate in 1974. She attended St. Bridget's College, Asaba, to obtain the West African School Certificate, Division 1 in 1979. She gained admission into the University of Ilorin, Kwara State in 1979, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree, Biochemistry, in 1983. Professor Mrs. Adaikpoh did her 1-year mandatory national youth service as a teacher in Samaru College of Agriculture, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, from 1983 to 1984. She obtained the following additional degrees from the University of Benin: MSc Biochemistry 1998, MPhil Biochemistry 2010, and PhD 2011 with specialties in toxicology and environmental biochemistry. Professor Mrs. Adaikpoh joined the service of the University of Benin as an assistant lecturer in March 2001 in the Department of Biochemistry and rose through the ranks to the position of a professor on 1st of October 2016. She has held several administrative positions within and outside the university, such as member, University of Benin, Post-UTME, and Post-Direct Entrance Committee 2006 to 2007, Faculty of Sciences Representative, Faculty of Engineering, Board of Studies 2010 to 2012, Secretary, University of Benin Chapter on the Organization of Women Scientists for the Development of Third World 2014 to 2018. Leader, Nigerian team to the International Sustainable World Project Olympic I-SWEEP, hosting Texas, USA 2015. Faculty of Life Sciences Representative, Board of Studies of College of Medicine 2017 to 2018. Senate Representative, Business Committee of Senate for the Faculty of Life Sciences 2021. Member, Introduction of Critical Thinking and Communication Skills to the Postgraduate Course Content Committee 2021. Director of Programs and Administration, Jennings Illumina Education Initiative. Professor Mrs. Adaikpoh is a member of several professional bodies and associations, which include member, Nigerian Society of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. Member, Nigerian Society for Experimental Biology. Member, Third World Organization of Women in Science. Member, International Network of Women Engineers and Scientists. Member, Chinese Academy of Science, Organization of Women Scientists for Developing World. She has over 35 publications in local, national, and international journals. Professor Adaikpoh is a reviewer for many reputable scientific journals and has presented papers in several national and international conferences. She is a resource person to several NUC accreditation teams and an external examiner assessor to many Nigerian universities. She has supervised many undergraduate and postgraduate students. Professor Mrs. Adaikpoh has attended several local, national, and international conferences. Her hobbies include watching movies and shopping. She is a devout Christian she's a devoted Christian of the Catholic faith and worships at St. Paul's Catholic Church, Airport Road, Benin City. She is married to Professor Edwin Adaikpoh. and the union is blessed with 3 children. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to invite Professor Mrs. Martina Awele Adaikpoh to deliver her lecture.
Vice Chancellor, sir, members of the University of Benin Management Board, University of Benin Management, please permit me to stand on the already existing protocol duly established by the University PRO. I am dedicating this inaugural lecture today to my father, Oweshi Joseph Ukoji Okonta, for whom education is worth more than gold. To my husband, Eddie, whose love is a deep well from which I constantly draw. To my children, Barbara, Edwin, and Sapphire, for making it all worthwhile. Vice Chancellor, sir, thank you very much for this opportunity to present this inaugural lecture, which is the 41st in the series in our great university and the 11th in the Department of Biochemistry. I am particularly elated to be giving this lecture today because I applied for the opportunity to do so in 2018. You can imagine my surprise when I got a nod to go ahead this year, when I was already giving up hope of ever presenting my inaugural lecture. However, this is testament to the number of professors in our great university that are eager to let the world know what they have contributed to knowledge. Greatest Uniben! I have titled this lecture today, Spermageddon, Nigerian Helps to the Rescue. The American Heritage Dictionary describes Armageddon as the scene of the final battle between the forces of good and evil that is expected to take place at the end of the world. Spermageddon also has become a metaphor now to mean any catastrophic conflict that is seen to likely lead to the end of the human race. So, with that image in mind, Spermageddon, made up of 2 parts, sperm and Armageddon, should be understood to mean the epic war against the sperm cells that is likely to lead to the end of the world or the end of the human race. Vice Chancellor, sir, there's a lot of reports of the declining quality and quantity of sperm cells. And if we look at this figure 1, it represents the average sperm count of men worldwide between 1973 and 2018. In 1973, it was 101 million sperm cells per meal of semen. And this came down just 45 years later to 49 million sperm cells per meal of semen. You can agree with me that these are scary statistics. If this is what is happening in 2018, between 1973 and 2018, just 45 years interval, you can project what the world will become in years to come. Are we still going to have the human species? Vice Chancellor, sir, this figure represents 52% fall in sperm count worldwide. I think everybody here have heard of couples living for 10, 20, or sometimes even 15 years without any children. who do people look at as the culprit? Is the female, isn't it? And we have seen these females emotionally distressed, and people just make their life miserable. Even the husband will, at this time, be going from one place to the other looking for children. But the woman will be praying and hoping that it will be better one day. We have also seen that because of this extreme sadness that this woman feels, she will do anything, she will go to any length to have children. Some of them have gone to medical, traditional medical men, and these people have taken advantage of these vulnerable women, and they have they prepare all sorts of concoctions. Some of them insist that they will use their own penis to insert it deep into the vaginal canal of the female. Sometimes these women end up being pregnant for the traditional medicine man rather than their husband. It has led to many divorce cases. Have we not seen women who have stayed maybe 10, 12 years with their husbands without any children, and maybe when the husband dies and they finish mourning the husband, their relations will usually tell them to remarry, advise them to remarry, and when they do, they have 2, 3 children in quick successions. So it has always been a female problem. And Wadia and Emopaye brought it closer home to us when they reported in their 2015 review that 40 to 50% of the infertility cases in Nigeria is due to a male factor. However, they said that this data varies from one region to the other. Like in southwest Nigeria, it is 42.4% cases that are male factor related. In Ile-Ife, 46%. In Enugu, eastern Nigeria, 55 to 93%. And in Kano, 40.8% prevalence was reported. So, usually, women of childbearing age, just to protect the female folk, women of childbearing age were often exempted from certain occupational environments. So it's only now that people are beginning to give serious thought to the adverse effects of such environments on male reproduction. The causes of male infertility are multifaceted, and reports have shown that 60% of all male infertility is due to sperm dysfunction, and 30 to 80% of these cases of sperm damage is suggested to result from oxidative stress caused by reactive oxygen species. If we look, and also reports have shown that 25 to 40% of infertile men, reports have detected reactive oxygen species in the semen samples of 25 to 40% of infertile men studied. And that shows us that there's a relationship between reactive oxygen species and infertility in men. So studies have linked the decrease in sperm quantity and quality to a combination of environmental, lifestyle, and dietary factors. Genetic factors playing just 2 to 8% of playing just a role of 2 to 8%. Vice Chancellor, sir, you find that after hearing about all this, it got me thinking, and then I asked myself some questions. What is happening to sperm cells? Is male fertility really in crisis? If so, what is driving this decline in sperm count? And what can we do to stem this? So all my career so far, I have dedicated time to look at the effect of environmental toxicants on male fertility. So, and I have also tried the environmental toxicants in question are azodyes. We have also looked at herbicides, plasticizers, and also heavy metals. So these are all in our environment, and we have tried to also see if natural antioxidant vitamins can be used in managing the problem. And when we finished looking at that, we also looked at whether extracts from certain plants that we have around can also help, because our people are not in the habit of taking supplements. So we decided to look at the effect of whether we can use these plants that we eat to manage male infertility. So if we look at this figure 2, we will see the effect of environmental toxicants on male and on the sperm cells. We can see that the sperm cells are under attack from all around the environment, from the air and from these toxic chemicals like bisphenol, like phthalates, like plasticizers and pesticides, and also from excessive heat. We are talking about the excessive heat now increasing every day. So this effect leads to decrease in sperm count. It leads to lower motility. It leads to higher deformity of the sperm cells, and of course DNA breaks. So if since we know that these sperm cells are as a result of male, as a result of male that as a result of reactive oxygen species, you find that when the free radicals are high and antioxidant level is low, oxidative stress is the result. And once we have this oxidative stress happening, it leads to multiple pathologies like these DNA breaks, like infertility, like even cell death, apoptosis, so many things, membrane leakages, so many things happen when oxidative stress attacks the cell. If we look at the testes, you find that two major functions of the testes are sperm production and testosterone secretion. So these are linked to two anatomical components of the testes, which are the seminiferous tubules and the Leydig cells. And we need these two compartments to function very well to increase sperm quantity and quality. Sperm cells are especially attractive to reactive oxygen species. At the same time, these sperm cells are they're in a dilemma. They need to also have membrane fluidity. At the same time, they need this thing that makes them fluid also is what's attractive to reactive oxygen species. So, and these are poly unsaturated fatty acids. If we look at this next picture here, figure there, figure 4, we can see, I just want you to follow, these are what we call in biochemistry, fatty acids. So these fatty acids can either be saturated or unsaturated. So the first one here is a saturated fatty acid because you cannot see any double bond in them. But as you go down from oleic acid to the last one, which is docosahexaenoic acid, you will see that while oleic acid has just one double bond, as you go down the series to the last one, you have a 22 carbon atom fatty acid with 6 double bonds. So these are called the polyunsaturated fatty acids, and they make the sperm cells, the membrane of the sperm cells, to be attractive to reactive oxygen species. So we also look at the body's antioxidant system. We know that we have just said that sperm cells are attractive to reactive oxygen species, and we have said earlier that the major cause of damage to the sperm cells are reactive oxygen species. But the cell does not just take it lying down. They need the function or the intervention of antioxidants. And these antioxidants can be enzymatic antioxidants, or they can be non-enzymatic antioxidants. So the antioxidants function in three ways. They can be radical preventive, radical scavenging, or radical induced repair. So let us look at what happens during battles. You know, there's a military technique where it's called a penetrable center, where the best and the best soldiers and the best skilled are usually put in front. You know, in those olden days movies, they told you I'm an avid watcher of movies. So in those olden days movies, you have them in front, and their function is to destabilize the enemy forces and get them to concentrate on these best skilled forces, thereby leaving their flanks open for the second troop to swoop in and take the day. The cells are practicing the same thing. You find that the first line of defense of antioxidants are the body's most powerful defense system, and they act to prevent the formation of free radicals. So examples of these are superoxide, the enzyme based antioxidants, and these are superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. Please don't mind those biochemical words. They are just names of enzymes, and they are the ones that fight. They help to fight these reactive oxygen species. After fighting, you find that the second troop now, these are the diet-derived antioxidants. So these ones come in, and examples are vitamin C, vitamin E, carotenoids, and flavonoids. So we'll get to that one later. And still keeping in that war kind of theme, you find that usually after any war, the injured are removed to the infirmary for treatment. The cell is doing the same thing. The cell also, the third group of antioxidants, like the DNA repair enzyme systems, they are the ones that repair the biomolecules and the membranes that are destroyed by free radicals. And the ones that cannot be destroyed are usually collected and removed, because if they are allowed to stay, they can now become toxic again to the cell. So this group of antioxidants serve in cleanup function. So just like we have said for the military people. So this is the picture or the figure. This figure 5 shows the beautiful sperm cell. This is the aim for our sperm cells to be beautiful like this with very long tail. We have the acrosome, and we have that part, the meat piece. If you look at the meat piece, that is here. It is loaded with mitochondria. And if you remember, we are told in our secondary schools that that's the powerhouse of the cell. So this mitochondria produces a lot of energy that this sperm cell needs to swim to the female. The aim of the sperm cell, their worth in the world, is to be able to fertilize an egg. So if they are not able to do that, then they are not doing their job properly. If they are not able to do that, they are not doing their job properly. So when we are evaluating semen properties, we try to look at their motility, the sperm count for the sperm, the motility, and the morphology. And that's how semen properties are evaluated. So the sperm count can be described as normal. It can be described as low or absent. Also, motility can be described as progressive or non-progressive. There's no point for the sperm cell to stay in one place and just be shaking. It's not going to use that method to get to the female. So it's a non-progressive movement, and that does not help the sperm cell. So it's the progressive, vigorous, progressive forward movement that is the one that is good. So if we look at this next slide, we're looking at the morphology of the sperm. You can see that this has short tail, With short tail, it cannot move well. We have 2 tails, we have 2 heads. These are all abnormal sperm cells. And here we have the normal one with beautiful long tail. So this is where it all started. It started in my MSc program in this our university, where I was introduced to toxicology by a retired professor of toxicology, Professor F.O. Obi. This humble, meticulous, and hardworking professor of biochemistry supervised my MSc and PhD thesis and impacted my life both within and outside the classroom. 2 of us looked at the histological changes that can arise when the rats are exposed to low doses of Congo red dye. And our results shows that azo dyes are, Congo red dye is an azo dye. And azo dye was previously used in the textile industry, but has been replaced by other dyes because they are sensitive to light and washing. But now they are used also in histological studies, and are also used in paper industry. So we found out that we found the presence of disrupted tubular basement membranes in the testes of rats that were exposed to the toxicants. So these results were published in Obi et al. 2003, Obi and Adaikpoh 2004. We now went ahead to investigate further, and this is where my cadmium research started. Cadmium is a toxic metal that we find in our environment in the earth crust, and this cadmium, the human beings don't have a pathway to eliminate cadmium from the body, so they bioaccumulate, and after some years they have a half-life of even up to 30 years. After that, those number of years, they can get to a threshold value where they can become toxic to the human being. So they are usually stored in the kidney and the liver. So we might just need to be careful how we order and eat organ meat. So cadmium is, we are exposed to cadmium in a number of ways. For inhalation, you find that we can get cadmium from tobacco smoke, because tobacco leaves store a lot of, accumulate a lot of cadmium. So we, even those people in jobs like welding, smelting, mining, that are exposed to cadmium, and even municipal waste recovery work, all these are exposed to cadmium. And in our study, we sought to investigate if vitamin E, the most potent antioxidant vitamin, can actually protect us from cadmium toxicity. So we discovered that increased cholesterol levels within the testes and attendant membrane rigidity might be one of the ways or mechanisms by which cadmium causes damage to the testes. We found that low levels of the vitamins, like 75 to 150 milligram per kilogram body weight, was effective in taking care of cadmium toxicity. But when we increase the dose to 750 milligram per kilogram body weight, we saw that the vitamin E itself became a pro-oxidant and potentiating the toxic effect of cadmium, which means that we have to be very careful when we're taking all these drugs, because those might be very important, will be very important even in using herbal extracts. So we went ahead again to, we now showed that rats that were pre-treated with vitamin E for 28 days before cadmium exposure, that these rats were protected from lipid peroxidation. And our observations were published in Adaikpoh and Obi 2010. In another study, we decided to up or increase the dose of cadmium that we are exposing to the rats, and also use a cocktail of antioxidants vitamins C and E. The reason we did that was that when vitamin E, which is a peroxy radical scavenger, when it does its work, it will now become it will lose its ability to function, and then the vitamin C will regenerate the active form of vitamin E. So together, they work better together than individually. So we decided to use that method and see what comes out. So we saw that cadmium causes infertility in rats, in male rats, by inducing reactive oxygen species and a hypercholesterolemic environment leading to impaired Leydig cell function. Don't forget that we said that Leydig cell function and the compartment of the tubules must function very well together before we can talk about protecting the sperm cells and preventing them from going down. So we also saw that pre-treatment was more effective in protecting the testes than post-treatment. Our results were published in Adaikpoh and Awele 2013A, Adaikpoh and Awele 2013B. And this is the chart showing these results that I have just talked about. And here you can see this is the one that was pre-treated with vitamins before cadmium exposure. You can see that at least the sperm count is higher than all these. This is the untreated, and this is the one that was treated with cadmium after, treated with vitamin after cadmium exposure. You can see that no good job was done in those two cases. And here is the control. So when we looked at that, we now decided to look at to expose these rats to female rats to know whether there will be any successful fertilization. When we did that, we saw that there was successful fertilization only in that rat that was treated with vitamins first before cadmium exposure. So you can see the implantation sites showing successful fertilization. So again, Vice Chancellor Sir, traditionally our people do not have the culture of taking supplements on a daily basis. And that was why we decided to look at our diet, whether there are components in our diet that can actually protect us from these attack on the sperm cells by the environment. And to do that, we prepared a typical Nigerian diet. I know that many people are uncomfortable hearing that a diet can be a typical Nigerian diet. Because they say that this Nigerian diet varies from one region to the other, from the rural to the urban areas, and also across socioeconomic class, the diet is different. But in literature, it was agreed that a typical Nigerian diet has high carbohydrates, high fiber, and low protein, and also that it has moderate amount of oil. So equipped with that information, we prepared a wholesome Nigerian diet for the rats and gave them for 28 days. Treated them with cadmium and then gave them this diet. You can see gari acting as carbohydrate, crayfish, protein, palm oil is the fat, and sun-dried amaranthus hybridus, which is spinach, became our source of fiber. So although there was decreased cadmium load, we found out that malondialdehyde levels were elevated. Our results were published in Asaba et al. 2004, of which yours truly was a member of the team. Number of deformed cells were significantly elevated. We also found out that sperm count was reduced. Motility was also significantly reduced. So that shows us that our Nigerian-like diet cannot protect against cadmium toxicity. So our results were published in Adaikpoh and Obi 2012. We went ahead again. This is the data that I have just talked about now. So we now went ahead to look at the Nigerian herbs to see whether these Nigerian herbs will come to our rescue. So, Vice Chancellor, sir, Surgical interventions are available for treatment of male infertility, but these are very expensive and very difficult to be assessed by ordinary Nigerians. So we decided on the alternative, which is a herbal treatment. So, and we chose our plants. Plants are able to produce hundreds or even thousands of chemical substances that are not directly involved in their growth and development and reproduction, but they are just there for ecological purposes, meaning that they are there to protect to make the plant to survive in its environment. So these chemical substances are many, and they include terpenoids, we have phenolics, and nitrogen-containing compounds and sulfur-containing compounds. And over 10,000 of them have been characterized, but we still have a lot that are yet to be identified. So the most important criteria for us that we used in selecting this is whether or not the plant is rich in antioxidants. It doesn't matter to us whether the plant can chelate metal ions, whether or not they can chelate metal ions. So we use that, and in our search for these plants, we came across this plant that is called Vigna angularis. And the common name for that, I don't know, in Yoruba land, they said is Igba Aso in Yoruba land, and it's called Azuki beans generally. So when we use these extracts to treat cadmium exposure, we found out that there was testicular failure. There was testicular failure or the inability to produce enough sperm cells. So this is the figure showing the Azuki beans. So we went ahead again to look at the effect of the aqueous extract of Hibiscus septerifer, which is zobo. And when we used it to treat these rats that were exposed to cadmium, we saw that it protected us against cadmium toxicity. The result of that one was published by in Asaba et al. 2007, of which yours truly was a member of the team. So we did not only look at these toxicants, we went ahead to look at other toxicants like herbicides, and herbicides that we looked at is Roundup. Roundup is a glyphosate-based herbicide. And in 2024, a group of French researchers studied the semen samples of 128 men, and they found out that 73 out of these 128 men that they studied had herbicide, that is glyphosate, in their semen. So that is another scary thing. But Monsanto, the company in US that produces that, will tell you that their product is safe. And this Roundup is the most commonly used herbicide in Nigeria. So our results showed that there was high level of glyphosate-induced oxidative damage in the sperm, and our sperm count and sperm motility were significantly reduced, while we have sperm morphology was also increased. So this suggests that there's a problem with the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, possibly indicating early stages of testicular dysfunction. So the result of that study was published in Adaikpoh and Erunse 2016. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the results we obtained. And we went ahead to also look at plasticizers. So the question is, what are plasticizers? Plasticizers are chemicals that are added to plastic to make them malleable so that they can easily be molded into shape. And there are so many of them that are in use. And you can see here that DEHP, which is diethyl hexyphthalate, was the highest used in 2022. And the products that contain plasticizers, the country that produced those products and brought into Nigeria were based in China. China was our highest supplier of those products that contain plasticizer. So we went ahead to study the effect of this plasticizer on testicular lipid patterns, and we saw that there was reduced membrane lipids and altered membrane fluidity, and this may be the mechanism by which DEHP damages the testes. So we also saw that histological sections showed sclerosis and such an atrophy. So that shows us that DEHP is toxic, and that when we use the vitamin C and E to ameliorate it, the toxic effect, we saw that it was effective. And our results was published in Adaikpoh and Awele 2018. So, emboldened by this, we decided to look at another plasticizer, which is DBP, dibutyl phthalate, and we decided to use utazi leaf that is used as spice in our Nigerian cooking. So the utazi leaf, we got the extract, the aqueous methanol extract of that, and we used it to feed the rats that were exposed to this toxicant, which is DBP. And we saw that rats that were orally exposed, that DBP induced elevation in lipid peroxidation in the testes and increased the number of deformed cells again. Testicular cholesterol was also increased, and sperm count and sperm motility were decreased, as well as luteinizing hormone. So treatments of the different doses, graded doses of this utazi leaf extract that we used, the 400 milligram per kilogram body weight was the one that actually protected the testes. And our results was published in Oyamendan et al. 2025. That's my lab. And these are the results of the pictorial form. And the histology of histological section through the testes showed that the DPP caused distortion in the testis architecture with marked degeneration of seminiferous tubules and Leydig cells. So, Vice Chancellor, sir, while I have tried to limit this lecture to the effect of selected toxicants on male reproductive function, we have also reported their effect on other tissues and organs in the body of the rat, like kidney, heart, blood, and brain. So the results that we obtained were published in these various papers, including Adaikpoh et al. 2007, Awele and Adaikpoh 2009, Adaikpoh and Obaseki 2010, Awele and Adaikpoh 2011, Adaikpoh and Awele 2012, Awele and Adaikpoh 2013, Adaikpoh and Alegu 2015, Awele et al. 2015A, Adaikpoh and Shanomi 2015, Obi et al. 2015, Adaikpoh et al. 2011, Adaikpoh et al. 2013. Recommendations. There are many more extracts of medicinal plants that have not been characterized. I pray that future research should be focused into in this direction to find specific components and molecular mechanism by which certain herbs are able to avert the effect of these environmental toxicants on the testes. There should also be further collaborative efforts to make available a compendium of these medicinal plants, their function and their molecular mechanism of action. At this time, when the World Health Organization is encouraging the use of medicinal plants as a source of new treatment options, unnecessary secrecy should not be allowed to inhibit our growth in this area, so that we can also get international acceptance. So we also need to remove some of these toxicants from our vegetables by washing them with baking soda and vinegar, as discussed in literature. So governments of certain countries have banned the use of plasticizers in childcare products, because especially for children of 36 months and below, because these children at this point in time are constantly chewing and sucking their toys. So I also advise that the Nigerian government should follow suit. So government should encourage research aimed at addressing or correcting male factor infertility by increasing finance to support this effort. Vice Chancellor, sir, what I have presented here today is my humble contribution to the search for a therapeutic, cost-effective, and readily accessible treatment for severely compromised semen quality and consequently male factor infertility. This is by no means the end of my search. No, not by a long shot. It is just the beginning, and the study continues. And I'm using this opportunity to ask members of the audience, our lab is open, so if you know the plants or anything that they're using in your locality, you can come and collaborate with us. Our lab is always open. Infertility of any type, Vice Chancellor, sir, infertility of any type, whether male or female, is not a good thing for a couple to experience. The society presents men's procreative contributions and reproductive masculinity as problematic. But these men, and they say that the men are fertile throughout their lifespan, so they don't even talk about male infertility. But in the case of female infertility has been well studied. So, although infertility is a global problem, you find that it's particularly more in Africa. The burden is particularly more in Africa because they tell you that if you don't have babies before your death, you risk your name being forgotten. So this situation for a man will make the man feel guilty, that he will feel worthless, and there will be shame, there will be depression. But now that we have started discussing this, there's hope that things can get better. So I hope this presentation today has inspired more researchers to go back to their laboratories and join in this all-important search for a wonder drug, a wonder herb, or a group of herbs that can effectively be used to manage this male fertility crisis. All hands must be on deck. I thank the Almighty God for the gift of life and for making today a reality. May his name be praised forever and ever. I also thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor Edoba Omorege, SAN, and members of his team for giving me this opportunity to deliver this lecture. I thank especially our amiable Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Sisi Osubo, who was my seminar supervisor at MSc level. Sir, I thank you very much for the role you played as Dean of Life Sciences to ensure my promotion to the rank of senior lecturer. I also thank all the Vice Chancellors that have served since I joined the services of the University of Benin for providing a conducive environment for me to thrive. I am very grateful to my father, Joseph Okoji Okonta. He would have loved nothing other than to be here and see me deliver this lecture to this audience, to this sea of people. Unfortunately, he passed in 2015. I thank the matriarch of the Okonta family, Mrs. Veronica Okonta, for keeping the family together. My elder sister, our big mommy, barrister Mrs. Ngozi Ibeka and her family for their efforts. I thank my other siblings, and I also thank my cousin, Mrs. Justina Chibuzo Etiaka and her family. Vice Chancellor, sir, I was very lucky to have two strong academic fathers and mentors. These are Professor FOOB, who supervised my MSc and PhD thesis, and Emeritus Professor EAC Wanze. Unlike many mentors these days, Professor Wanze does not believe in a blind loyalty from his mentees. He, in fact, liked them to have independent thoughts. I remember the very first Biochemistry Board of Studies meeting that we attended. The house was divided. Unknown to me, Emeritus Professor E.A. Siwanze noticed my hesitation to know which side he was going to vote before I cast my vote. At the end of that meeting, he called me aside and said that one of the hallmarks of a good academic is the ability to analyze a discourse and make an independent and informed choice. And Emeritus Professor, I hope I have done well in that aspect. I know you are watching because he said he was going to watch online. He's not around in the country right now. So I thank my other teachers in biochemistry department. Your names are in the book. I thank also my past and present deans of the Faculty of Life Sciences, Emeritus Professor N.O. Eafona, Professor Ikeneboma, Professor T.C. Osubo, Professor Mrs. Enabulele, our Mama of Life Sciences. I remember what you did for me when my promotion was delayed to associate professor was delayed for 3 months. You did what mothers do best. You encouraged and calmed me down. I'm very grateful for it. And I also thank Professor C.E. Okaka, Professor N.E.J. Owe, who proofread this work. Professor T.O.T. So I also thank Madam Vice Chancellor of the University of Delta, Professor Mrs. S.C. Chiemeke, and the management of the University of Delta for giving me the opportunity to spend my sabbatical leave in their institution. Madam Vice Chancellor, all the staff I have encountered so far have been friendly and welcoming, and that is testament to your able leadership. And now, to the husband of my youth, Professor Eddie Adaikpoh. I am glad that this journey, which started in the October rush of 1979, is still going strong today. Yours has been a steady hand, steering the affairs of our family for these 39 years and counting. There must be something that we're doing in our career, because our eldest, Barbara Iyari, is a PhD and also a lecturer. Thank you for your support, Bibi. Thank you, Dr. Edwin Ogonye, and the baby of the family, Barrister Sapphire Chukwulinso, who specifically asked that I should mention her name and describe her as a dual qualified and dual called lawyer. That the Vice Chancellor, who was her teacher, will understand what she meant by that. So I thank you and Ejiro for your support. And to my beautiful granddaughter, Selin, Mommy loves you, Grandma loves you very well. And to this wonderful audience, thank you for listening.
I think our inaugural lecturer deserves a standing ovation. A standing ovation. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you so much, man. That was quite insightful and a very robust research work. May I now invite the acting Vice Chancellor to give a recap of tonight's lecture.
This is a synopsis of the inaugural lecture. Our inaugural lecturer today, Professor M.A. Adaikpoh, has told us about the alarming rate of decline in sperm quantity and quality in recent years. We heard that infertility is no longer only a female problem, but that male factor accounts for 40 to 50% of the infertility cases in Nigeria, and that this number varies from one region of the country to another. We have also heard that 60% of all male infertility is attributable to sperm dysfunction, and in 30 to 80% of these cases, damage is due to oxidative stress. Toxic chemicals in our environment like cadmium, herbicides, and plasticizers induce their toxicity by generating free radicals like superoxide radical, hydroxyl radical, hydrogen peroxides, and nitric oxide radical in our body. Superoxide dismutase catalyze vitamin C and E. If the body's antioxidant system is unable to mop up these free radicals, oxidative stress results. Excessively high reactive oxygen species can reduce sperm count, sperm mortality, and increase sperm deformity. These are all conditions that could cause the sperm cells to be unable to swim and penetrate the oocytes for the purpose of fertilization. Professor Adaikpoh has explored the effect of medicinal plants, medicinal herb extracts to boost semen parameters, sperm count, sperm motility, and reduce the number of deformed sperm cells, and thus enhance fertility in males. She tried to exploit the chemical components of these plant extracts called phytochemicals to protect against oxidative stress and hence improve sperm quality. An example of such herbal plant is the utazi leaf. Let's put our hands together for her, please. She emphasized that the current male infertility crisis and the psychological problems associated with it should be enough motivation for more researchers to try and find a therapeutic, cost-effective, and readily accessible treatment, while bearing in mind the need to balance potency with safety. She suggested more collaborative efforts to make available a compendium of medicinal plants, their functions, and their molecular mechanism of action on toxicants, emphasizing that at this time, when the World Health Organization, WHO, is encouraging the use of medicinal plants as a source of new treatment options, unnecessary secrecy should not be allowed to inhibit growth in this area and therefore hinder international acceptance. I once again congratulate the inaugural lecturer, Professor Mrs. Adaikpoh. We can put our hands together for her. But all of us that drink root, we have one root that we drink. We have one root that we drink, and all of us, we are very fertile. My father at 75, he married a young lady, and before my daddy died at 105, that lady gave birth to my father 5 children. There is a root that we drink.
Thank you, Acting Vice Chancellor. Now we invite the inaugural lecturer for the decoration. We also invite members of our immediate family, the husband and the son, to the stage to join her as she's decorated. Her sister also, Mrs. Josephine Ngozi Baker, could also join her on stage. We welcome other members of the family this evening: Mrs. Joyce Omotayo Ubudaga, Honorable Henry Duke Tenebe, you're welcome. Prince Gordy Suman, you're welcome. Mr. Silvanos Imobeha, you are also welcome to this inaugural lecture. In no particular order, we welcome other distinguished personalities here this evening. AIG Wilson Ahiru, retired PhD. We welcome Professor Emeritus T.O.K. Audu. We welcome Professor Emeritus Raymond Elaho. We welcome also Professor Emeritus Nosa Ehafuna. Please a round of applause for all our professors emeriti. We welcome also Professor George Eri Yeremu, former Deputy Vice Chancellor at Kenwa Campus. We welcome specially this evening the Registrar, Federal University of Technology, Akure, Mr. Charles Adeleye. You are welcome, sir. We welcome also members of the clergy, Reverend Father Charles Osasogi Omogiate, the parish priest, St. Paul Catholic Church. We welcome very warmly this evening Chief Honorable Tony Ifebuchi Esquire, Palace Secretary and Secretary General, Igwe Cabinet, Agbiru, Anambra State, all the way from Anambra State. Please a round of applause for him. We welcome also immediate past Dean, Faculty of Life Sciences, Professor Jerry Ore. We welcome Professor Iyere Onoagbe. A round of applause for them. We welcome Professor M.P. Okole. We welcome Professor Marcel Okaku. Professor Mrs. Francisca Igbohari, you're welcome. Professor Chuku Oyeneke, you're welcome. Professor Mrs. Onaiwu and Nabulele, you are also welcome. Professor Mrs. Veronica Akupuma, you're most welcome, ma. Professor Mrs. Silva Ogwana, you are welcome. Professor Mrs. Francisca Okuboa, you are welcome. Professor Mrs. Bio Agoreyo, you are welcome. Professor A.O. Awaritoma, you are welcome. Professor Mrs. E.U. Ikoria, you're welcome. We welcome Professor Eric Okoje, Professor G. Adekola. We welcome Professor Odion. We also welcome Professor Solomon Omoniho. We welcome very specially also this evening Professor Tony Afemike. We welcome Professor Manasseh and Professor Mrs. Teresa Imonikebe. We welcome Barrister Mrs. Osaro G.I.H. We welcome everyone this evening who came to grace this occasion. As we bring this inaugural lecture to a close, I'd like to pray your indulgence that you rise as we take the Uniband anthem and the third stanza of the national anthem. Please hold on as the Vice Chancellor's procession leaves the hall.